Okay, so Nitiraj and Narendra, the recording of this session has been started. A quick overview which I will give you in this particular session, Nitiraj. Um, First of all, the chapter number one, whether you take third edition, fourth edition, first of all, I already told you there is no direct output based questions which are covered in the third edition of the portfolio management. And exam is purely on the scenario based questions. I will not say there will be no single line question, but I will not say there are no straight question. There is no straight question means it is not that they will have some fill in the blanks, or they will want to test your memory power, or will want to check your memory power about the definition of what is portfolio, definition of business value, or there will be no direct question on any definition or any single statement or any single concept. Now, mostly, even if it's a single line question, they will be around the key concept of the portfolio management, such as what is the distinguish between portfolio process assets, organizational process assets, what is inventory, portfolio component inventory, and about analyzing and why to analyzing. So there are single line question. There will be some 15-20% question will be there, one line or maximum two line questions, one or two line question will be there, but those are again will be testing the concept part. They will not be testing the any memory part or any direct statement from the standards. So, you know what is portfolio? Portfolio is the bridge between organization strategy and objective. You know that portfolio delivers one or more organization strategy and objective. And we also said portfolio component may be independent and not necessarily related to each other, because each component can be aligned to different strategy and objective of an organization that the portfolio is trying to deliver. The portfolio, do not just deliver only one objective. Portfolio delivers multiple objectives of the organization at the same time. So first of all, you need to understand that multiple objective. And one more thing I would like to tell you. Portfolio management is not just about managing one portfolio. It is written in the standard portfolio management. When we say it may be possible, Narendra, you may be managing multiple portfolios simultaneously, and each portfolio may be delivering one or more objective of the portfolio. So this is also another statement you may see. Portfolio management is all about managing the multiple portfolio, and portfolio exists in an environment. Portfolio management operates in an environment broader than the portfolio itself. If you have learned that, or if you have read that statement, what does it mean? What does it mean to you when we say portfolio management works in an environment broader than the portfolio itself? See, we mean that, see what is happening, Narendra and Nitiraj. Many times what happens is, um, uh, what happens is, you know, the portfolio manager primarily focuses what's happening within the organization. I'm sorry, what's happening within the portfolio. They do not focus what is happening outside the portfolio, outside the portfolio. And that is, this statement is exactly saying that the portfolio management work or portfolio management operate in an environment broader than the portfolio itself. This means you need to also look what's happening outside the portfolio, Narendra, because there's so many things that is happening outside the portfolio, which is not happening within the portfolio. And Narendra, many times as a portfolio manager, we are very much in control. We are very much in control of what's happening within the organization, but we are not in a control of what's happening out, because that is called enterprise environmental factor. That is not in our control. That is what PMI defines. Enterprise environmental factors are not in a control of a portfolio team, where the portfolio manager lead this particular team. And PMI says this environment factor can be constraints on portfolio. They could limit the portfolio performance and the portfolio value delivery. This environmental factor which are not in control of the portfolio manager. And also, Narendra and Nitiraj, this environmental factor can have both positive and negative influence on the portfolio aggregate value. See, it can be possible, Nitiraj and Narendra, that the environmental factor may be very positive influence on the portfolio success. Suddenly, maybe economical change, and economical change, economy started booming, your inflation start reducing, then you can have more investment for the portfolio, because when your currency value increase, your inflation goes down, your labor rate becomes cheaper, and this all positively influence the portfolio value, because you have more resources to invest, and your resources become more economical. So I want to tell you that environmental factors are also very, very positive for the portfolio as well. And of course, negative influence, we all know. Imagine that economy started deflating, not inflation, but deflation, where your labor rate has become very, very costly, where your resources became costly, where your currency value is all-time low, where your GDP growth is, below par than the expectations. So such conditions are negative, and in that condition, managing portfolio will be very challenging, and you have to do more often. You have to do those capability and capacity management, because when resources become expensive, when resources become hard to acquire for the portfolio, then capability and capacity management becomes the one of the most important domain for practice by the portfolio manager. Of course, we'll come back to capability and capacity, but I hope you understand what we said is, we said here that this portfolio value, this portfolio management is all about even keeping awareness. You should be aware of what's happening outside the portfolio, so that you are ready with your plan, that if environment is going against the portfolio value realization, then how can you tweak your strategy, how can you optimize your resources, how can you because environmental conditions which are uncertain means there is more risk. Uncertainty is nothing but risk, because PMI define risk as an uncertain event. So when such uncertainty happens, then managing risk, managing resources, re-architecting your portfolio structure, where you need to terminate some component, you need to fast track some component, you need to re-optimize the priority of the component, and such, that's called portfolio optimization in when environment conditions. So portfolio optimization becomes your prerogative, your most important responsibility at that point of time. So I hope you understand that portfolio management is not just about looking and watching what's happening inside, or just managing the component interdependency, or just managing resource allocation among the portfolio component. But portfolio management is more about keeping aware of the business environment and what's happening within this enterprise, and how those enterprise environmental factor can limit your success value realization, or how they can create an opportunity to maximize the value for the organization. So that's the portfolio management we had discussed. And when you are managing multiple portfolio, how those resources see, you also need to see resources interdependency, not just within the portfolio but across the portfolio when you are managing. Because portfolio management, you cannot just think only at the portfolio you are looking or you are managing. You have to look at the organization, because you are driving organization strategy and objective. So you need to and where synergy should be the core foundation of your portfolio management, where you must see that how a different portfolio through the synergy, how resources can be optimized, and how even giving back to the organization by releasing your resources at right time. These are some of the very, very important responsibility of a portfolio manager as part of your portfolio management. Of course, you have read the eight principles of portfolio management. Okay, you said, of course, the first principle which talks about evaluating the the business strategy, operational strategy. You have to continuously evaluate the business strategy, operational strategy. That's very, very important. Okay, especially during when the portfolio is the initiation stage, and whenever there are changes into organization, business strategy, operational strategy, your portfolio needs to incorporate a change in the form of strategic change, tactical change, and such changes through which you can align your portfolio to this ever-evolving organization, business, and operational strategy. So, that's one of and that's the first principle of portfolio management, that evaluate the business strategy, operational strategy throughout the duration of the portfolio life cycle. And you already know portfolio life cycle is an ongoing life cycle, which is chapter number 2. Chapter number 2 talk about the ongoing life cycle of a portfolio, where the stages in the portfolio life cycle, where you have the initiation stage, you have the planning stage, you have execution stage, and there is an optimization stage. Okay. And remember that there is no explicit closing stage in the portfolio life cycle. Okay, you do not plan. You should not plan to close the portfolio. Rather, as a portfolio management practitioner, as a portfolio management professional, you need to continuously learn and apply your experience of a portfolio management, so that the portfolio continue to remain optimized. Because there will be, this portfolio will be competing for shared resources, shared stakeholder support. Because if you see that diagram where resources are shared among the portfolio, and the stakeholders are shared among the portfolio, what we are trying to tell you that you need to always see how can you optimize these resources and ensure that. Because many people think, see, portfolio management win is not about, by whatever means, try to get maximum resources allocation for your portfolio. Many portfolio managers I see, and this is immature portfolio manager. They are inexperienced portfolio manager who thinks, okay, let me get maximum resources allocated for my portfolio, so that if uncertainty happen, then my portfolio will. They do not understand that, because they think accumulating maximum portfolio resources. So if any uncertainty happens, any risk gets identified, then they have this reserve, or they have these additional resources to overcome this. But imagine that that's not the portfolio management. You need to, these resources which you are using in your portfolio, they are accounted for the portfolio. Remember, there's a cost benefit. These resources are impacting your cost benefit ratio, and they are, imagine that one is your cost benefit ratio, your portfolio attractiveness is becoming a problem. And imagine other portfolio within lesser resources, if trying to show more value, then the organization will never like you as a portfolio manager. They will think, oh, why this guy is taking double the resources, whether it's a human resource, financial resource, facility resource, or any other assets. If we think, organization thinks, the portfolio review board, portfolio governing board, if they think that, okay, that this portfolio manager is using so much of resources, and his cost benefit ratio, let's say 1:3. If you are taking, let's say, in terms of financial, 1 million, and he's only giving 3 million, but the other portfolio who is utilizing 1 million and giving 5 million as a revenue, then your you will always become deprioritized, where organization will say, okay, they may pull your money and may allocate to the other, because he's trying to show more he's trying to show more optimistic approach, and you trying to be more pessimistic. Pessimistic means you see everything there's a risk. You don't have confidence. You don't have confidence on your knowledge. You don't have confidence on your ability, and you think that anything can go wrong, like a Murphy's law. Murphy law says if anything has to go wrong, you are practicing Murphy law, that something may go wrong, even if it doesn't have to go wrong. So if a portfolio manager is very pessimistic manager, then maybe his portfolio will never be an attractive portfolio within the organization. So please ensure that be optimistic portfolio manager, where do not try to justify those resources which are not required in your portfolio just to protect yourself from aggressive approach, or uh, just to protect yourself from those uncertainties which you could very easily avoid, which you could very easily mitigate, but you only risk response strategy you have is accept, because you're just willing to accept the risk rather than avoiding them, mitigating them. And this is the portfolio manager who practice risk acceptance importance more to the avoid and mitigate. Those portfolio manager is always very pessimistic portfolio manager. They are very pessimistic portfolio manager. So please don't be pessimistic the portfolio manager in whichever organization you are operating. So that is what we discussed, that the portfolio life cycle, where you need to be always optimizing your resources throughout these stages in the portfolio life cycle, the initiation stage, the planning stage, execution stage, and optimization stage. There is no explicit closing stage, because you are optimizing the resources, you are ensuring that the portfolio remains most attractive during the entire life cycle of the portfolio. And you should always try to see that your portfolio does not become an opportunity cost for any other portfolio to get authorized. See, if your portfolio is consuming lot of resources and giving very low returns, and if you are very pessimistic, if you are always showing a lot of risk in your portfolio, and you don't have any proper mitigation and avoidance strategy, if every risk you are showing that you will only accept it, that means you cannot mitigate them, you cannot avoid them, then your portfolio will certainly become an opportunity cost for other portfolio to get authorized. Okay. So that's another very important concept which you need to keep in practice. In the exam, always be proactive, never be pessimistic. Continuously showcase how your portfolio can contribute maximum value, how it can compete with other portfolio within the organization, and how the resources are not kept on hold within your portfolio. The resources which your portfolio does not want, or the resources which your portfolio are not required, those portfolios should be immediately released, because they are impacting the aggregate value of your portfolio. So please keep that in mind. As a in this quick recap session, I want to tell you in this session, friends. Okay. The next thing which I will talk about in this portfolio lifecycle, of course, all the stakeholder role, portfolio management office, portfolio manager, and the portfolio sponsor, portfolio governing body. This role which we spoke very length during our the exam prep course as well, okay, which you have attended. Remember that PMO, there are questions centered around PMO. Remember PMO, where it's a centralized function. PMO is not a temporary initiative of an organization. It is not that PMO is an central function. It's a portfolio itself. Just like there's a marketing portfolio, there's a sales portfolio, there's a HR portfolio, there is a you can call technology portfolio. Similarly, there's a PMO portfolio within the organization. And remember, this PMO, though we calling it portfolio management office, but that is not specifically tied to one portfolio within the organization. When we are saying portfolio management office, which has the portfolio, like portfolio life cycle is an ongoing life cycle. So this portfolio management office will support all the portfolio within the organization. And this PMO will define the best practices. They will create the portfolio process assets. Remember, we spoke about portfolio process assets versus organizational process assets. during our exam prep course. And it's a very simple, if I have to distinguish between this is, portfolio process assets is specific to portfolio management. The portfolio management processes, the portfolio management tools, the portfolio management templates, the portfolio management artifacts such as strategic plan, such as management plan, such as portfolio, all performance report and portfolio, all communication log, and performance dashboard. These are portfolio process assets, whereas organizational process assets are nothing but, they are more at a strategic level. See, remember, the standard is very clearly saying that defining the organization strategy and objective and defining the organization vision and mission, these are not in the scope of the portfolio management. That's the scope of the strategy management. Okay. So, and the standard has very clearly mentioned that, portfolio management starts after the organization strategy and objectives are defined, and these strategies and objectives will be delivered through portfolio management practices. So, defining the organization vision, organization mission, organization strategy, and the goals and objectives, they are part of the strategy management. Okay. And remember that we discussed in our training session that every organization has a different strategic planning cycle where they keep reviewing this organization vision and the mission that become input to the strategic planning cycle. And in fact, that's the core purpose of strategic planning cycle, that how can they achieve their vision by keeping the mission at the ground as a framework to deliver that particular vision. And what are the goals and objectives that needs to be adjusted, that needs to be optimized to achieve the vision and mission. That is all happening during the strategic planning cycle, but outside the portfolio life cycle. This is not part of the portfolio life cycle. And during the strategic planning cycle, the organization strategic leader, they have their own framework to conducting the strategic planning cycle. They have their own tools, they have their own templates, they have their own lesson learned, they have their own procedures, practices. Such are the those assets, those processes, those procedures, those tools, those templates, those guidelines. They are all called organizational process assets. So remember that if I have to summarize the portfolio process assets versus the portfolio process assets, if I have to summarize that in a nutshell, then portfolio process assets are those assets that are created for the portfolio management and portfolio governance. But organizational process assets are created outside the portfolio lifecycle for governing the organization strategy and objective, and ensure that those strategy and objectives that contributes to the organization vision and mission. So this is the distinction which we have learned during our PfMP certification training as well. So what about, I was telling that the PMO responsibility, from where we came to this point, we were saying that PMO job is to, when we are saying portfolio management, they have to maintain these assets. Okay, they have to maintain these assets, portfolio assets, and ensure that the portfolio, they create the portfolio templates. They create the PMIS, portfolio management information system. They define the all the strategy management processes. They define the portfolio governance processes, risk management processes, procedure and tools, techniques. They define all of these portfolio level governance and management templates, processes, tools, and so on. So remember, they have to continuously audit whether the portfolio team is using the right processes, right tools, right templates, and using the organization resources optimally or not. So they have to do all this audit, and they have to continuously train the portfolio team in ensuring that the portfolio deliver the maximum value. So that's the PMO job which we discussed. And remember that PMO, as we said, is a governance function. Of course, in certain condition where it will try to control or become a directive role in the portfolio management. But the best role or the best structure of the PMO is the support. It should focus on supporting the portfolio management rather than controlling and directing the portfolio management or to the portfolio team. Because if the portfolio team and manager is not capable, if they don't have competency, if they are not able to manage the portfolio value delivery, that is the time PMO will control your portfolio, will direct your portfolio so that they can deliver the value for organizational overall success. So that's very, very important, friends. PMO should not ideally become a support, ideally become a controlling or a directive function. It should become a support function for the portfolio management. We also discuss sponsor. Sponsor is ultimately accountable for portfolio success. Sponsor is, ensure that the portfolio has resources available to deliver the value. So committing those resources as per the portfolio strategy, as per the portfolio, which is strategic plan, as per the business case. That is what is the sponsor job. And of course, he will provide again the oversight. Remember the governance. I created a video which I shared in that group as well. The four function of governance: the decision making function, oversight function, the control function, and the integration function. So sponsor does have decision making power, but remember PMO does not have decision making power. PMO, portfolio management office, what's happening within your organization may be different, but PMO, as we said, they are the generally a support function, and there are some time when they become control and directing function. That is the time they will take some decision, mostly a tactical decision. But it is the sponsor, or if there's a portfolio governing body, those stakeholder will take decision making role in the portfolio life cycle. So decision making function, oversight function is all about your leadership, all about making the portfolio environment visible, sharing the portfolio vision, and providing the guidance, and ensure how portfolio remains protected from external influences. These are all oversight related support or oversight related responsibility of the governance role, such as sponsor and governing body. And of course, PMO will also is a governing body. PMO does not take decision, but PMO does provide oversight. PMO does provide control. Remember, we said supportive PMO, controlling PMO, and directive PMO. So PMO definitely control the portfolio performance, control the portfolio alignment with the organization strategy and objective. And portfolio manager responsibility, we have discussed, I think so, even in this recap session, and that we will continue to discuss in this session now. So that's a chapter number 1 and chapter number 2, where we discuss about all the fundamental thing about these portfolio stakeholder, what is portfolio management, what is portfolio, and what are the portfolio components. I hope you know portfolio components are nothing but these temporary components such as project and program, and ongoing components such as the subsidiary portfolio and the operations. These are the ongoing component of the portfolio. Okay, so the portfolio component, and remember we said portfolio component can be aligned to different objective and strategy that the portfolio is driving, and that is why portfolio component are not necessarily be related to each other. Then the chapter number 3 in the standard for portfolio management, 4th edition, the chapter number 3 talks about the portfolio strategic alignment. Okay, strategic alignment, this is one of the most important chapter in the standard for portfolio management, because how driving the portfolio value and ensuring that that value contribute to the realization of organization strategy and objective. That is what has been covered in chapter number 3. We'll talk about a strategic plan, portfolio strategic plan. Remember that portfolio strategic plan, it is nothing but the portfolio business case. It is nothing but the business case where it justify why portfolio should be authorized, why this portfolio is the right portfolio to deliver the organization strategy and objective. And it remember we discussed the input for the strategic plan. Strategic plan is developed during the portfolio initiation stage, but it is continuously updated throughout the remaining stages or phases of the portfolio life cycles. Okay, but its initial development starts in the portfolio initiation stage, and it is the portfolio manager job. Developing the strategic plan is the portfolio manager job. Many people ask this question: oh, portfolio manager is authorized via the charter and strategic plan is input. Strategic plan is input to the charter. Then how can he, if he is authorized? See, he is authorized, the portfolio is authorized, the portfolio manager is authorized, does not mean that he does not, before that, he does not exist in the portfolio. Portfolio life cycle starts, portfolio life, as per the standard, the portfolio life cycle starts as soon as the portfolio manager is assigned. Portfolio life cycle does not start after the portfolio charter is approved. Okay, this is another area of confusion many global portfolio manager has, because lack of just a bookish definition, they just do certification, but because of lack of their practical experience, they always have this problem. So remember that a portfolio life cycle begin as soon as the portfolio manager is assigned during the initiation stage of the portfolio life cycle. And through this portfolio manager responsibility, the portfolio, when he developed the strategic plan, which primarily justify why the portfolio should be authorized or why the portfolio should not be authorized, such this is done via the portfolio manager responsibility. So please understand that portfolio manager is assigned even before the portfolio charter is approved. Via the portfolio charter, he just gets the formal authority. He gets the formal authority to go ahead and start, do the detailed planning and start delivering the value. But his appointment, from the appointment, the portfolio life cycle starts. So that's just, we'll talk about the strategic plan. And the strategic plan required that input is organization strategy and objective. The organization strategic plan, which will have these one or more organization strategy and objective, that will become input for the portfolio. That will become input for this portfolio strategic plan development, developed by the portfolio manager. And also, this along with the input, which is organization goals and objective, which are defined into the strategic plan, this inventory of work, what we discussed, that organization always, especially the more mature organization, they may have a inventory, they may have a repository where all the work they have done in the past, the work they that will be part of this inventory of work, and that work can be reused. Many a time that existing work that can become starting point for a portfolio to get evolved, to get authorized. So we are trying to tell you that, and in fact, majority of the portfolio, they starts because of some of the assets, some of the work that already exists, and the new portfolio becomes an starting point of another portfolio within the organization. Okay, and we have taken so many examples during our exam prep course around this. Okay, so remember that portfolio process assets, that becomes a very, very important input to develop the portfolio strategic plan. And of course, we discuss other input is portfolio process assets, organizational process assets, and enterprise environmental factor. And we already discussed environmental factor, because especially when you're developing the strategic plan, the environmental factor certainly becomes very, very important input for developing the strategic plan, because this environment will always influence the portfolio value delivery. And if you are not presenting the right environmental picture to the portfolio stakeholder, then they will always lose interest from your portfolio and they will disengage from your portfolio. And remember what happens when stakeholders are disengaged, that will certainly impact the portfolio value realization. So ensure that environmental factors are assessed while you developing the strategic plan. And these environmental factors are not just internal to organization, they are even external to organization or external to enterprise. Look into what's happening in political landscape, what's happening in economical environment, and especially technology. And if in today's business environment, if you are doing portfolio management, then technology is the factor definitely you should look out at, because as I said, I create so many videos, and you may have heard me saying that if one environmental variable, if that has the maximum impact today in the portfolio value realization, then it is a technology. I sometimes feel more than political, economical, social, legal, and other ecological and other constraints. I'll tell you that technology elements, technology variable is most uncertain. The AI ML landscape, artificial intelligence and machine learning, see the rate at which the technology is evolving, that has never seen before. And you may have heard recently from so many people, the rate at which internet, see, we had internet where internet had changed so much of a way of working around the portfolio management. But internet has not created as much disruption, the internet wave. But this AI ML wave will certainly create more disruption. And again, it's an environmental factor. It can also be positive. If you try to exploit this environmental condition, then you can have greater result. See, the individual and organization who are leveraging this technology wave, they are the individual are most successful. They are the organization who are most successful. But the other individual and organization who are not leveraging this technology wave, then those are the individual are facing heat. They are the organization who are facing heat because their product is becoming obsolete, because the competitor has already come up with the competitor has always come up with a new factor, a new product which is much advanced, which is much economical, because it has consumed much lesser resources. And where your product is becoming so very bulky, so very costly, because you are not using AI and ML, you are using physical resources, and which is human, machines, money, and making your product much costlier than because of lack of technology. So what I'm trying to tell you, while you're developing the strategic plan, if today you are not aware of the technology landscape and how the technology landscape is evolving, and if you're not considering those influences in the portfolio, then I don't think so your portfolio will ever last. The portfolio will may not able to deliver any value. So remember, during the strategic plan, environmental factor assessment that have to be considered while you developing the strategic plan. And of course, the strategic plan, you will also define your portfolio initial architecture, that what kind of work the portfolio will be done to deliver this value. Because in justification document, you have to present to the portfolio sponsor, to the portfolio governing body, that not just what value you will deliver, but how you will deliver the value. So, or what kind of components. Remember the portfolio, we discussed 4 type of component: a past component, current component, planned component, and future component. Remember the 4 type of components. So even during the initiation stage, when the portfolio manager is developing this strategic plan, there always can be past component from the inventory of work. That work the organization has done in the past, that work through those components can become an important component of your current portfolio. And current component is which you have identified, which where resources has already been authorized. Those are called current component. So the difference between current component and planned component are both are identified, but the only one factor that distinguishes between current component and planned component is current component where their charter is authorized, where resources are committed, whereas planned component are those component where their charter is not authorized, they are only planned. They have been identified, they will be planned to get authorized, and the resources will be committed to them when the portfolio will have resources available from the one or more sources. So remember that some planned component which are already identified, they does not have their charter is not authorized and the resources are not committed to planned component. And future component are which are not identified now, but those component always portfolio manager needs to understand that if the portfolio manager is not identifying new component regularly as the portfolio evolving, then if the portfolio is only at the operational state and where new projects and new program are not happening, then again your portfolio not going to last, because portfolio remains attractive. Portfolio remain attractive only because of these components which are continuously identified during the portfolio life cycle. So future components are those components which will come up as we do rolling wave planning. The rolling wave planning means at this moment we don't have detailed information, we can't transform them into project and program, but we have certain cases for them, we have certain business cases for them, but still they are not that information is not very matured. So that as we do more rolling wave planning, as we get more information, we will create more and more component in the future. Those are called future component. So I think so that is what and strategic plan, when you developing this initial portfolio architecture will be created where there will be some past component, there will be some planned component, there will be some current component, and so on. And the portfolio charter, we discussed that portfolio charter formally authorize the portfolio. We discussed 7 elements during our exam prep workshop. What are the 7 elements that distinguish between the portfolio strategic plan and the portfolio charter? Remember, we said strategic plan, the first distinguishing factor that we discussed is portfolio strategic plan is a justification document, whereas portfolio charter is an authorization document. Charter formally authorize the portfolio. The second distinguishing factor we said is portfolio strategic plan can have 10 pages, 20 pages, 30 pages. It's a very detailed than the portfolio charter. And as per the PMI, charter cannot be more than 1 or 2 page more than that. Okay, it should be very crisp, concise, should only have high level portfolio summary. But remember that high level integration document, charter integrates high level summary of the portfolio. It will integrate portfolio vision, portfolio high level strategy, high level portfolio justification, high level portfolio resources, high level constraints, high level assumptions, high level component architecture, high level stakeholder, high level communication, high level governance, and high level risk. All these things will be into the portfolio charter. But charter, remember the second distinguishing factor between business case, which is strategic plan, or the charter is a 1 page or 2 page document, whereas strategic plan can go as long as 10 pages, 20 pages, 30 pages, or could be 100, 200 pages as well. Third distinguishing factor, we also discussed that to develop the strategic plan, you need those organization strategic goals and objectives. The portfolio strategic plan you need to develop, you need organization strategic goals and objectives. If you want to develop charter, you need portfolio strategic plan. Portfolio strategic plan is input to portfolio charter. We also discussed when the fourth factor which we discussed is, when is the strategic plan updated? When is the charter updated? Remember, both are dynamic document, both are updated throughout the life cycle. And we also discussed they are updated because of strategic changes during the portfolio, whenever there are strategic changes and those strategic changes approved by the portfolio governing body along with the portfolio sponsor, then these charter and the strategic plan will be updated. So we discussed that when the portfolio strategic plan updated, whenever there are strategic changes, organization, whenever the organization strategy and objective are changing, the portfolio strategic plan will change. And whenever the portfolio strategic plan is changing, the portfolio charter should also change. Okay. Another distinguishing factor what we discussed is the confidentiality level. The portfolio strategic plan is very, very confidential document, whereas charter is not a confidential document. In fact, the very reason of creating a charter is to present to the stakeholder and communicate why the portfolio has been authorized. See, you cannot present the strategic plan, which is, let's say, 100-page document or a 50-page document. The stakeholder will be overwhelmed. And this strategic plan will have a lot of your internal sensitive information, such as how you perform market analysis, how you perform benchmarking, how you perform capability and capacity, how you perform SWOT analysis, how you perform all the alternative comparative advantage analysis. All that analysis you have done, the approach to those analysis and the results, the detailing, that will be there in the strategic plan, which is neither you should share or not the stakeholder maybe are interested if they are not your competitor. Okay. But charter is primarily, we discussed that is used to share the portfolio vision, the portfolio, the value realization, what value that has been authorized. That is what we discuss about, charter. It's a very low sensitive document. It may not have any sensitive information. So hence, if some stakeholder wants to know why the portfolio has been authorized, then presenting the charter is the best approach. And another factor we already distinguished, that the strategic plan must be developed by the portfolio manager. Okay. And charter can be developed by PMO, by sponsor, or the portfolio manager, because it's a standard template, one-page templates that are available into your portfolio process assets. If such one-page document is available in your portfolio process assets, and if it is directly evolving from the strategic plan, or if it is updated from the, then that one-page document filling, you don't need to, once the strategic plan is approved, the sponsor or the governing body can ask the PMO to support and give them this charter filled for the portfolio, and formally charter will appoint the portfolio manager, and will portfolio formal work will be commencing during the initiation stage. Next is what we discuss is the roadmap. Roadmap is all about a trajectory. It's a trajectory to deliver the value. It gives the strategic direction. Remember, roadmap is a graphical document. Roadmap is a graphical, it has to be graphical document. And the value which has been justified via the strategic plan and the value that has been authorized via the charter, that value have to be divided into milestone via the portfolio roadmap. So roadmap break down the aggregate portfolio value into smaller component, into major milestone, and defines what are the dependency between the milestone, what are the chronology of the milestone. Chronology means the sequencing, the timeline. So roadmap define timeline, sequence, their start time, their end time, and which component will deliver the milestone. So imagine that a graphical document. Imagine a graphical document that visually presenting you your way to deliver the value, your trajectory to deliver the value. And this is the best tool or best artifact to communicate the portfolio direction to realize the value. Okay. If stakeholder, for even communication purpose, we have learned that, to build the stakeholder advocacy to deliver the value, the roadmap becomes the primary tool. And we already discussed about portfolio component. What are the, these components are very, very important strategic alignment work. Defining, remember, portfolio manager, one responsibility is defining the right component, doing right work, portfolio manager is a proposer for this component. He needs to propose the right component. So that's a very, very important strategic responsibility of a portfolio manager, where he needs to define what are the components, assign the key descriptor. Key descriptor is nothing but the metadata, the attributes. What are the component ID, component description, component type, such as project component, program component, subsidiary portfolio component, operation component. So defining this type of component, these who will be sponsor for the component, all of these are metadata. These are the key descriptor, or these are the attributes of the portfolio component. So identifying the component, assigning the metadata, these are all right component aligned to deliver the aggregate value, and mapping this component to those milestones. These are all strategic responsibility of a portfolio manager. Also, friends, please understand that this component categorization, the categorization, you will see at least four questions in the exam on the categorization. See, once the components are identified, they have to be appropriately categorized, so that the portfolio remain a balanced portfolio. See, imagine if you have a component which is very rightly categorized into financial centric component, a component which are customer centric component, a business process improvement component, and learning and growth related component during the portfolio life cycle, then the organization can appropriately and effectively balance the resources. So categorization helps in balancing the resources within the category and then across the category. That's a very, very important understanding you must have. And imagine that situation where there is no categorization. Then there's some of the component may never get the organization resources. Some component will never get the priority. So it is very, very important, friends, that you understand that categorization helps in balancing the resources across these portfolio category and optimize the value delivery. So without categorization, portfolio will not able to deliver the sustainable value. A portfolio will not remain sustainable at all if these components identified, they are not appropriately categorized. So categorization helps in prioritization and optimization during the portfolio life cycle. Okay. And categorization, during when you are prioritizing the component, first you need to look into the within the category, and then you need to look across the category, where how much resources are allocated within each category of the portfolio component. It should not happen that one category should get let's say there's 100% resources. It should not happen one category getting 80% resources and next 4 categories only getting remaining 20%. So that will be inappropriate balancing, and your portfolio may not last too long. So categorization helps in balancing the portfolio resources and realize the overall value. And I hope you have no questions on single criteria and multi-criteria scoring model, multi-criteria weightage ranking model to prioritize the portfolio component. That is what we discussed. So after you identify the component, categorize the component, then you need to perform the weightage ranking and scoring model to ensure that the portfolio are optimized and they are properly prioritized and optimized. One important concept which we discussed during the strategic alignment domain of portfolio management is managing strategic change. Even this managing strategic change, as we discussed, that portfolio life cycle is an ongoing life cycle. And remember, these changes makes the portfolio ongoing. And I said sometime back, if you are not identifying new projects and program, remember, projects and program driving change. So whenever we are saying managing strategic change, that means we are continuously identifying new projects and program. And these new projects and program ensuring that the portfolio attractiveness to invest in the portfolio. If you are not initiating any change during the portfolio life cycle, and if portfolio is purely into an operational state, only operational component are happening, and such changes are not happening, strategic changes are not happening, then your portfolio, remember, that state is depicting the maturity of the portfolio. Or I don't know whether the maturity word is the right word. That will show that your portfolio now will only have decline. The portfolio will not, it's all the steep curve that has been achieved. Your portfolio may be into that what we call in a straight curve, where in a straight line, and after that, a plateau state. The plateau means where it has seen all the growth, and there are maybe other substitute products that are creating impact. And if you are not changing your product and services, then the decline is imminent. The decline is near of the portfolio, where the organization will not find your portfolio attractive, and they will have to disinvest from this portfolio. So managing strategic change. And during the 3 tools and technique, we discussed Kurt Levin's model of force field analysis. There will be questions around force field analysis. Remember, what are the forces for change? What are the forces against change? And you had these questions into our mock exam, add-on skills mock exam. So please look into this mock exam around force field analysis. Whenever there's a strategic changes, such forces for the change needs to be evaluated. And if the forces for change are higher than the forces against change, then the change will be authorized. Otherwise, the change will be rejected. We also discussed gap analysis and readiness analysis. Yeah, gap analysis and readiness analysis is very, very important. Friends, gap analysis is, whenever there's a strategic change, you have a current state of a portfolio. What is the portfolio is currently planned to deliver, current value planned to deliver, and after the change, what is the value that is the stakeholder or the governing body is expecting the portfolio to deliver. So you need to, whenever there's a strategic change, you need to know what is the current value and current resources versus what are the planned value expected and what planned resources required to deliver the value. So you need to define this gap. You need to, through the gap analysis, you need to define the gap. And via the readiness analysis, you need to assess whether you have resources or you have capability and capacity to bridge that gap or not. So readiness analysis will go beyond. Once the gap is determined, the readiness analysis will justify whether this change is possible or not. Okay, so readiness analysis will further create that business case for that change, and then that business case for change, once it is approved, after doing this readiness analysis, then those change will be delivered through project and program during the portfolio life cycle. So that's all we discuss in the chapter number 3, portfolio strategic alignment domain. The next thing what we discussed was, I think so, I hope, the governance domain. And remember, governance, as we said, that without governance, portfolio management is not possible. If governance is not happening, management will rarely happen. See, I'm not saying your resources are not committed. I'm not saying especially human resources. But governance keeps them in check. Governance means oversight. Governance means control. Governance means integrating the component with the organization strategy and objective. That's the integration function. That's the integration function of a governance. So governance is all about, we discussed in this video. You can go through the video on my YouTube channel, Add-on Skills YouTube channel, where I have very clearly told what are the four functions of governance, and where I have discussed what is this decision-making function, oversight function, control function, and integration function. So governance is all about these four functions and the activities around these four functions. So whenever anybody asks you what is governance, tell them governance means taking decision. And remember, in this video, I very clearly said decisions are not taken only by the sponsor. Decisions are taken by the portfolio manager as well. So more tactical decision will be taken by the portfolio manager, and strategic decision will be taken by the portfolio sponsor along with the governing body that will support the sponsor in taking the decision collectively. So governance, I think so, will not go much in detail. Okay. Okay, Naresh, go ahead with your question, please.
My question is that Kailash, we talking about the decision making about the portfolio manager, so that decisions those who are within our tolerances, means that within our control, that we are able to take, right, as a portfolio manager, and those changes, those that are not in our control, that is out of tolerance, that we consider during our portfolio strategic plan, so that we need to go ahead for the approval from the governance body or steering committee, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the when you're defining the governance framework as part of this governance domain, we need to define the governance framework. And during the framework, what are the governance goals? What are the governance layers? Single layer governance, multi-layer governance, governance roles and responsibility. What is the PMO responsibility toward governance? What is the portfolio manager responsibility toward governance? What is the sponsor responsibility toward the governance? And what is their authority? How much is the authority given to the portfolio manager? All that thing will be defined into the portfolio governance plan, or you can say portfolio governance framework. Okay. So any authority which is beyond the portfolio manager have to be, remember the governance framework, there's an escalation process, how the decision making will be escalated to the portfolio manager, to the portfolio sponsor, and the governing body, that will be defined into the portfolio governance plan. And all these governance activities such as phase gate review, health check review, audit review, the criteria to take a decision, who will authorize the component. Remember we said portfolio sponsor and governing body, they will authorize the portfolio component, not the portfolio manager. Portfolio manager is a champion for change. He will propose these changes, which will be delivered through projects and program, but it's the governing body, it's a sponsor who will authorize the change. Is that correct, Narendra?
Yeah, understood.
Any other question?
No.
Very good. Keep asking those questions. Then let's talk about the next domain, capability and capacity management. Okay, see, again, very important domain, capability and capacity management. And remember this domain in the chapter, it's just fourth version of the standard for portfolio management. In third version, this is part of the performance management. Managing capability and capacity is part of performance management. So what the standard have done, fourth standard, they divided performance management domain into capability and capacity management and value management. Otherwise, those two were the processes in the third edition. So don't worry your how you will be get rated in the exam. You don't worry about the result of the exam. Just go build your knowledge, build your concept, and just apply the concept in the exam. And no matter in what domain they are putting your experience, but ultimately, if you have this capability and capacity, and we already know what a domain means, knowledge area. So capability and capacity management knowledge area is very, very important, because this domain work is performed across the life cycle. This capability and capacity management starts during the during the portfolio initiation stage, where you developing the strategic plan, and as part of the strategic plan, as we said, you doing this capability analysis, capacity analysis. So capability and capacity knowledge area or the domain that works is performed across the portfolio life cycle and via the portfolio charter these resources. Remember that whenever we are talking about capability and capacity, we are talking about resources, capability and capacity. Immediately think of resources. Okay. Human resource capability, capacity, financial resource capability and capacity, and the other assets capability and capacity. So that is what we discussed, and I have created what is the difference between capability and capacity. You can also go through those video and those knowledge capsule which I have shared again and which I have discussed in my training as well. So capability and capacity management is, and remember we also said some concept like capacity means the supply of the resources, and demand of resources means the requirement of resources. And we discussed that you need to minimize both unmet demand and unused capacity. If you have capacity which is not used, you need to minimize it, because this is what I said at the beginning some time back. If you are using more and more resources and you are not assigning them into new project and program, then those resources are impacting your value realization and your portfolio attractiveness. So by minimizing the unused capacity, you can make the portfolio more attractive by delivering more value. So minimizing unused capacity and unmet demand. Also, unmet demand means resource requirement. That means you have new projects and program which are planned. Remember, planned component. The component are in a planning state. Not planning state. That means they have planned. They have still not been authorized. And because of the component have been identified, but they are not authorized, that is why there is unmet demand. So this situation of unmet demand is not good. And neither the unused supply or unused capacity, neither that is good. So as a portfolio manager, you need to minimize this unmet demand. And how will you do that? And that is what we discussed, that by developing capability. So if you cannot increase the capacity, then build new capability. So we discussed that capability analysis, new capability development, sustaining the capability, monitoring and reporting the capability. That is what we learned in this particular chapter number 5 and capability and capacity domain. So to minimize the unmet demand, you need to increase your capacity or you need to build new capability. Only then will your unmet demand will be minimized. So I'm not saying minimize the demand, I'm saying minimize the unmet demand. See, it is a situation where there's a lot of demand. See, if I give you a simple example, let's say there's a lot of demand for my PfMP training as a Kailash Upadhyay, as a PfMP trainer, as a PfMP mentor. If there's a lot of demand for my training, and if I'm not able to fulfill that demand because of my capacity, because of my capability, then I need to increase my capacity and capability so that the demand can be met and unmet demand can be reduced or minimized. And if I can't increase my capacity, see, I can't deliver 10 training in a week or in a month, then I need to build the next level of trainer. And I have already built so many trainers around the world who have been part of my PfMP certification course, but they have very clearly told me, Kailash, I also intend to become a trainer. Will you train me? Will you guide me? And I have done that. I'm not a person, I do not see it as a competition, because this domain itself is not exploited. It is still has so much of demand to grow. And tomorrow, if you are one of that person who want to become a portfolio management trainer and who wants to learn the portfolio management from the very foundation level to detail level, then under my mentoring, I will mentor you, train you, and I'll wish for you, I'll pray for you that you will become successful trainer as well. And if you have the capability and capacity to do better than me, and I will feel happy for it. And I will also, sometimes this competition brings the best out of you. Imagine that there is no competition. Why I am creating new video, why I'm creating new knowledge capsule, why I'm creating new carousel, why I'm creating new, sharing, because there is competition. And this competition is making me improve every day. So I'm thankful to those other trainers who are doing excellent job. And because they are doing excellent job, to match them or to make myself relevant, I need to ensure that I need to uh, improve myself. I need to build my capability. I need to increase my capacity. So that's capability and capacity management is very important to minimize unmet demand and unused capacity. That is very, very important knowledge area where the portfolio manager must practice during the portfolio life cycle. The next chapter we discussed was, of course, stakeholder engagement. Remember, we said that in the exam, your result will be in a communication management. But the fourth release talks a bigger concept because communication management domain cannot exist without stakeholder engagement. If you do not have stakeholder and if you do not have engagement objectives, then you never need communication. See why I am communicating with you in this in the recap session so that you can pass the exam on your first attempt, because you are my stakeholder, and that is why I'm doing communication. Imagine that I have no portfolio management student as a stakeholder, then I will never be creating content and doing these kind of sessions. Why I do a lot of LinkedIn live session? I do LinkedIn live session so that I can reach to more community and add value to the community through whatever knowledge I have gained through people like you who have always improved me from your insight, from your questions, and from your. There have been instances where I am not able to meet your expectations, where you people have much deeper knowledge than me, and I have always respected and I always know that when you come in for a certification training does not mean that you don't have knowledge. You probably always have more knowledge than what I have. My knowledge is very limited. Your knowledge is, I always respect. So I'm just sharing what I have practiced in my portfolio management journey. And today at add-on skills, I'm managing multiple portfolio. Of course, delivery portfolio where I'm delivering the training. There I'm managing the financial portfolio. And there are other portfolio which I'm managing. And the real experiences, that is what I'm sharing in my training, the real experience. So the concept is engagement is a domain which is much bigger than the communication. So in the fourth edition, it starts from identifying those stakeholders which will create that value for the portfolio, which will support the portfolio value delivery for the organization. So those stakeholders, their identification, their analysis, and remember we said so many things. Why stakeholder engagement? When stakeholders have resistance to change, and what are the events we discussed? Specific events when stakeholder engagement is a must. See, if somebody asks you, when will you engage with the stakeholder? The simple answer is throughout the life cycle. But just by saying throughout the life cycle, you still need to define right element. And we discussed that the right events are whenever the portfolio move from one stage of the life cycle to another stage of the life cycle, stakeholder engagement is a must. Wherever there is a life cycle changes happening, or wherever new projects and program or new change are being introduced, or whenever there's a governance meeting, and whenever a new stakeholder is being identified and existing stakeholder become resistance to change, stakeholder engagement is a must. And there are various other events that we discussed in our training. Next thing, of course, we discussed about those model, CATWO analysis, we discussed power interest map, we discussed salience model. Some of these categorization techniques to perform stakeholder analysis. And the stakeholder analysis is important to prioritize the stakeholder needs and expectations and to develop appropriate engagement strategy that will be defined into that portfolio stakeholder register. And then we spoke about communication. Once the stakeholder are analyzed, engagement strategy is developed, because then communication comes. Communication, the heart of stakeholder engagement, and we discussed about communication method, interactive, push, pull, three method of communication. The communication method, communication model, communication medium. Remember communication medium such as technology, and we discussed how the medium, what are the forces that will influence your decision to select technology as a medium to communicate with the portfolio stakeholder. And we discussed the model, one-way communication model and the interactive communication model. That is what we discussed in our online cohort of exam preparation for PfMP. The stakeholder engagement domain we discussed in length, and a very important domain, 15% of the question. Another domain, which is chapter number 7, portfolio value management. Remember that we discussed about portfolio value. And remember this, each domain activities are performed throughout the life cycle. When we are saying managing the value, this domain is nothing but just a knowledge area. So do not think that value management will come at the execution stage of the portfolio life cycle. The value management will start during the initiation, because the aggregate value will be justified via the charter in the initiation stage and authorized via the charter again in the initiation stage. So value management starts from the initiation stage, and remember during the planning stage the value will be baseline, and during the execution stage the value will be delivered, and optimization stage will continuously optimize the value. And one important technique, the modern portfolio theory. I hope you remember we discussed the modern portfolio theory by Harry Markovich. It's a very popular theory. I think so somewhere in the year 1949, if I'm not wrong, Harry Markovich introduced this modern portfolio theory, which gave us a model to manage the portfolio value, where the focus was balancing a portfolio, not concentrating the effort around one portfolio or one specific area of the portfolio. So modern portfolio theory by Harry Markovich, via the efficient portfolio technique, we will able to determine which portfolio are efficient, which portfolio are inefficient, and when to the efficient frontier technique will very clearly visually will give us a hint that when it is a time to exit from the portfolio, so that your resources are not underperforming. And that all this thing we discussed in Harry Markovich efficient frontier or a modern portfolio management theory. Remember, there will be 4 to 5 questions on efficient frontier. And all those questions we have discussed in our training. So go through the training video, and if you have any question, then please do let me know. I will be happy to give you those further detailing. The last topic what we discussed was the risk management. 15% of the question, chapter number 8 from Standard for Portfolio Management, fourth revision. Friends, risk management is a big subject. And as I said, I'm starting a training also from 4th of October, which is from this weekend, a 30 hours portfolio management. So risk management at portfolio, program, and project level, that is what we will discuss in my training. And once you become PfMP certified, do come and join that training in future batches, because risk management in today's business environment is most important. Because I think the one profession, the risk manager, the risk expert, the risk owner, they will become more popular in today's evolving technology landscape. We already discussed difference between risk and issues. Risk are uncertain event which have probability and impact, but issues does not have probability. Issues have only negative impact. Risk can be positive or negative. And we discussed all those risk management strategies, such as avoid, mitigate, transfer, accept and escalate for threat, and exploit, enhance, share, accept and escalate for opportunity. Along with which what we discussed about the variables, risk management variables that will influence the risk management practice. And we discussed about how, the contingency plan, the contingency reserve, the management reserve. We discussed about secondary risk, residual risk, and there are so many questions in our domain exam, mock exam, and so many people who are using this mock exam to pass the PfMP certification. So just use this chapter, the recording, and any specific question if you have, Nitiraj, Narendra, anybody, then please let me know so that I can guide you around this risk management domain. So this was a quick, short recap session I wanted to do with you so that you can pass this exam. And I'm sure that you will pass the exam on first attempt, because I have almost close to 99% plus success rate. Hardly any of my students have failed on their first attempt. So since you are a PMP, PGMP certified professionals, since you already, as I said, you have much greater knowledge, sound knowledge than what I have. Okay, probably I may have gone something wrong. I may have not able to met your expectation, but I always have seen you people as a powerhouse of knowledge who have always gave me that in fact, even doing this session with you, where I feel blessed, I feel I have if I have able to meet expectations, then I want to say personally thank you to all of you here. Yeah, anything else I want to say, or anything else you want me to answer, anybody?
Kailash, one more thing regarding the stakeholder influence or like that. One stakeholder, suppose currently in our portfolio, and he has a high influence and high interest in our portfolio, and he is changed to the other function, but within our portfolio, but he is a less interest in our portfolio. In this scenario, are we going to ask him what is his expectation, what he want, or we directly update the communication management plan? So that is also my one query regarding that.
No, how can you, without analyzing the stakeholder, how can you see assumptions? You can certainly take, but if the stakeholder, and this is a very common situation where stakeholder influence may change, stakeholder impact may change, stakeholder authority may change, and all this interest may change. And whenever, and that is why this I defined stakeholder engagement matrix. Remember, there's so many metrics, or the metrics are nothing but the measurement criteria through which you can measure stakeholder engagement level. So whenever there's a through this engagement matrix, if you know that the stakeholder power have changed, their interests have changed, and if their engagement level have changed because of any of such factors, then you need to analyze the stakeholder, okay, and then adjust. And that is why you need to continuously adapt to engagement plan, communication plan. So adapt, the plan are never constant. It's a adaptive plan and iterative planning. So you need to do along with the collaboration. The more you collaborate, the better you will able to meet the expectation and foster the relationship with the stakeholder, and able to align the stakeholder need and expectations to the portfolio need and expectations. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, understood.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Lovely questions. I hope you got the answer what you are
Yeah.
expecting. Nitiraj, any other question?
No, sir.
Hope you are happy with this session. Hope
Yeah.
you are happy with all the other sessions which we had after our training. And I hope this will further boost your confidence. And do let me know if you want this recording. Okay.
Yeah. We need it's recording.
Okay. Thank you. All the
Thank
best
you.
for your exam. And as I said, you people are, I have no doubt about you passing the exam. And I want to say thank you to you that you came to my training. Uh, I don't know whether I met your expectations during this entire journey or not, but I did my best. Of course, there are, because of the other priorities where, since morning we are planning to have this session, and there's so many things are happening, other people's, and also since it's, festive time, I'm not able to do, but still we have a lot of time for the exam, and I think so we did other session, but I hope you are happy with the effort put up by my side as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Kailash. Yeah. Thanks for your time mainly. You take a time and give your valuable time to us for this session. So that is also most of the thing. And when you explaining that overview session, you take that short topics. So just scenario come in front of our eyes, what we face in the our mocks. So all the answers are clearly understand. Okay, why this answer it is why we giving that one. So that we clarifying that in this review session mainly. And one more thing, Kailash, actually, okay, we are trying and trying 2 or 3 times, 4 times. Now, that score of the mock is reached to the 80, 81 to 85 in between that. Not more than that. So, that is,
Sufficient. I'm saying, as I said, even if you don't do mock exam, you will still pass, because you people have that the practical knowledge. You people have that understanding, and I have had those training sessions with you, and those wonderful questions you people have asked during the training session. So mock exam is just some simulation of what we know.
yeah,
And see, when you give this mock exam in current at your home environment or during some office break, you cannot expect, because your focus is not there. But the exam, especially the Pearson View Exam Center, where it's a classic environment where there's no disturbance, there is no alarm, there is no, it's a wonderful 4 hours of life. Go and just experience those 4 hours, and don't, as I said, don't even just worry about the outcome. Worry about the the effort which you can put, the results, as I said, because of your knowledge, because of you will pass because of your knowledge. You will not pass because of this training. You will not pass because of my support, because you literally do not need that. You just will pass because of what you have practiced throughout your life. That's what I want to tell you, and that is the confidence I have on you. So just go ahead and celebrate that success once you pass. That's what I want to tell you. And thank you. Yeah,
Okay, thank you, sir.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Kailash. Thanks for your time. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Have a nice happy
Thank
Dashera. But that is not for you. Mainly. Yeah.
No, thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye. Kailash.